September the 19th. It's about 12:13 p.m. and I'm getting a bit of a late start this afternoon. But today, I wanted to talk about some of the common fears that we have about the astral plane, especially some of the things that I've read on Reddit, and I wanted to address those things. So, this is the first of 3 common fears that I see that people seem to have. Number 1, can I get stuck in the astral plane without the ability to return to my body? In the 40 plus years that I've done this, I have never had an issue returning to my body. My problem has never been getting back in. It's a simple thing for me. I simply think I want to be back in my body, and suddenly I'm back. The problem I've always had, and the most common problem that I see with those of us who do project on a regular basis, is the ability to be able to stay out, not to get back in. So another part to this, and something else that kind of goes along with this, people that have asked about getting lost. Can I get lost in the astral plane? Again, if you feel that you're in some unfamiliar place and you may feel lost, I've never felt lost or concerned about it, you simply, again, think, I want to be back in my body. And it's instant. You open your eyes and you're back. So that's fear number 1. Let's look at fear number 2. Can a malevolent or evil force take over my body? This is a big one. Unfortunately, people allow the internet, movies, and television to be their source when it comes to this stuff, instead of asking someone like myself who's actually done it. In all of my years of doing this, I have never had an issue with, and I'm going to put this in quotes, evil entities trying to hijack my body. I think one of the reasons that this fear is so common or prevalent, other than the media, is that people think that their bodies are like, or they think of their bodies, as a house. And when they leave it to astral project, it's like leaving their house empty. At this point, they fear that someone might be able to break in, but I don't believe that this is how it works. This idea that our spirit being or astral body can only occupy one place or another at a time is a 3D concept and simply doesn't apply. Our spirit beings are infinite and can exist in an infinite number of places. By the way, I've experienced this feeling of existing in more than one place at a time. I've talked about listening to talk radio on my iPad while traveling to other worlds, and have been aware of my breath as well. During these times, I had the sense that I existed in both places, both out there in the astral plane or beyond body, and in my body at the same time. Fear number 3. Can you be attacked by an evil entity when you're out there? Again, a very, very common one that I hear a lot. By the way, before I get into this one, I wanted to mention, as I'm going through these, that I wanted to, after I finish with this third one, I wanted to talk about a brief experience that I had after my last experience. It was so brief that I didn't really create a video for it at the time. It was very brief, but I'm deciding to share it here because I feel that it might lighten things up after talking about, all the things that people are afraid of. So after I finish this number 3 part, I'll talk about it. So again, number 3, can you be attacked by an evil entity. So this is one I've talked about before, but I wanted to cover it again because this is such a common question. So let's first talk about evil entities. The most common one I see mentioned are shadow entities, and honestly, I have never had a single issue with one, though I have seen glimpses of them. So none of them have ever attacked me, okay? And by the way, if by evil you mean that there are beings out there that might carry around anger, or hate, or fear, those beings definitely do exist. And in my particular case, the run-ins I've had with these beings have been extremely rare, and I've never thought of these incidents as attacks simply because I knew I was never in any real danger. So this afternoon, I'm going to give you an example. I always, as you know, I like to give examples of things to back up what I'm saying many times. And there are, I've had so many experiences, by the way, guys, that there are experiences that I've still not shared with you. And the experience I'm about to share with you is one of them. So I'd left my body and I was in flight when I noticed an old style ship. You know, at the time I wasn't sure what era or what time period it was from. It just looked old with sails and things like that. And I saw it anchored in an ocean below. And I saw people standing in line to board this ship. So out of curiosity, I began to descend in order to take a closer look. And as I started to get closer to land, I noticed that the people in line were dressed in Confederate uniforms from the Civil War era. So if you can imagine ships from back then, that's, I guess, where this ship was from. Before I touched the ground, one of these soldiers noticed me, then turned and fired his rifle at me. Now, I flinched out of instinct, but obviously the bullet did not harm me, and that was it. I returned to my body without incident. Imagine that this soldier, whoever it was, saw me landing and maybe was angry or thought I was attacking him or something. I have no idea, but his bullets did not work on me. So the question, is it possible that a being might show some sort of aggression towards you? It is possible. But the other question, and the more important one, and the one I really want you to consider and think about, is do they have the capability to harm you? I honestly 100% don't believe that they do. And speaking for myself, I have never been harmed by any of the beings out there. By the way, the feeling I have for them isn't fear. It isn't. It's more sadness because I believe these beings, like that soldier, they carry around the things that they had in life, maybe the things, the ignorance, the fear, the hate, all those things. They carry those things around with them. And do they lash out sometimes? I'm sure that they do. But understand, they cannot hurt you, okay? We are so much more powerful than we know. That's the whole part to this. We are so much more powerful than we know or realize. So I want you to keep those things in mind. And again, I want you to keep in mind that these incidents have been so extremely rare that it's just almost not even worth mentioning, but that you out there who are curious about this or who are just beginning your astral journey, should be aware of these things. You should be aware of them. And in any case, if something were to happen, always remember, and I'll always continually mention this, all you have to think is, I want to be back in my body. If you don't feel comfortable with something, and you are instantly back, safe and sound. So I wanted to go over this experience that I had again to kind of lighten things up after we talked about all this fearful stuff. And so this experience, this beyond body experience that I had, was after the experience, the other experience that I had with the alien beings, which was a fascinating experience. But I had this not more than about, I don't know, a half hour, 45 minutes after the first one. And again, it was so brief that I didn't even get into it, but I thought it would be something fun. So all the usual stuff, except I had on talk radio when I went back and I shut my eyes. So I did not have on storm sounds, and I had on the talk radio because I thought, well, I'm probably not going to leave again. And lo and behold, I felt that feeling of being in that middle space, the sweet spot that I always talk about. Went to the left, and then I stood up after I came off my bed, and then the darkness lifted, and I was in this place that was very similar to what I believe San Francisco. It's very, very similar to San Francisco. At least that's the feeling I got from the architecture, the houses that I saw. It had that feeling to it. I was walking down the street and I was looking, and there were houses on both sides, and they were quite beautiful. It was a beautiful day. The sky was blue and, just amazing. And in the distance, I could see that I was coming toward a park. Also, as I walked, I noticed that I was carrying a satchel over my shoulder, something that is actually quite strange because I've never had a satchel before. And this may be a part of my evolution with this whole beyond body thing. I'm not 100% sure. And by the way, guys, if you're wondering if I looked inside the satchel to see what was in it, I did not. I just thought, I wonder what's inside, but I didn't bother to look. So as I came closer to this park, I was probably right on the edge of it, or close to being on the edge of this park. There was green grass, and there were people, and they were sitting in the grass, and they were walking around, and they were talking. It was very nice. And so I decided, well, let's see if I can fly. So I jumped up into the air, and lo and behold, I could fly in this parallel reality, wherever it was. And as I was climbing into the air, I also noticed that I was kind of lurching to the left a little bit. The satchel that I had on was kind of weighing me down, and I wasn't quite balanced. But after a little bit of time, I gained my balance and I started to climb higher. But in the distance, I saw this young lady. She had short blondish hair, and she looked almost like a hippie. And she looked up at me, she smiled, and then she jumped into the air. And she was flying as well, but her flight, the way her style was so different. I've never seen this before. She was actually surfing the air. So it looked like she was on a surfboard in the air, right? Flying. An invisible surfboard, I guess. And she was surfing the air. It was so cool. I smiled, and I believe she waved at me, and I returned not long after that. So anyway, that was the experience. It was a fun experience, but like I said, it was very brief. Thank you so much for coming on another journey with me. And until next time, take care.